joining us today. Please introduce yourself and your position with MSIL, and tell us a little bit about your experience working here as an African American woman in leadership role.
Happy to be here, Stacy, and to be a part of this. Jamie Simmons, MSIL staffing. I started actually as a temp about 9 years ago. I've been hired on for 8 years now, having multiple positions and roles. Currently project manager for our company. This is a new position here that came about last year. A little bit about me being with the company as being an African American, so basically a minority working for a minority staffing agency. I think that's kind of funny in itself, like how you say that, because our owner is a minority, and me being a Black woman working for this company, I think it's great. I've loved it since day one because it's very personal, like family. I've always felt like family with our company. I've never felt out of place. I've never felt awkward working with these people here, with our MSIL family. A little bit about me, how I started in the venues. We used to do the venues downtown, like Lucas Oil Stadium and the convention center and things like that. And I was actually a temp starting there. And it's funny because whenever Richard comes, he said, "I can't believe you started as a temp." And I'm like, yeah. But just with hard work and proving yourself, you can become anything. When I got the offer to work for the company as hired on, I was really in awe, and I did want to be a part of it, and I don't foresee me going anywhere anytime soon.
What would you like people who are not of Black background origin to know about Black culture?
Well, Black culture in itself is a mixture of things, and it always changes. Sometimes as a Black woman, it's hard for me to keep up myself because our culture is so innovative, and they come up with new things. I would want everyone to know, don't judge a book by its cover. For being African American, for us, we express ourselves with how we wear our hair, how we wear our clothes, how we get our nails done. For our culture, it's kind of, the more you stand out, it's kind of the better you are, more so than in reality with working, you have to kind of bring it down a little bit. So I was always told, unnatural hair colors, stay away from that. It's distracting. Always with my nails, I've always been told kind of tone it down a little bit because it's very distracting, and when you're in front of a customer at a customer site, it's not really good, it's frowned upon. But however, this is how we express ourselves through something as simple as our eyelashes, the length of it, or if it has jewels on it. A way that we enhance our beauty is okay when we're out in the streets, but when it comes to being professional, it's looked down upon. So you can be judged. But me, I always like to push the envelope like as far as I can. So I will have like nails, and that's kind of different, but not too much, not too extreme. My lashes will be long, but it will still look right. I do stay away from unnatural hair colors only because it's not very professional, and I try to stay more toned down because I'm so tall, and how tall, and you know, with my size, it's kind of intimidating to people, and they look at that and they'll just run with that. So I like people to kind of judge me based on my personality. I like to talk to people and things like that. Once they get my personality, then they kind of get me, as I can say. I've never met, I probably had 1 or 2 customers that didn't like me, but normally everybody loves who I am and what I bring to the table.
We love that. And your lashes are on point.
Oh, thank you. I try. The longer, the better.
Who has served as an inspiration to you in your life?
When you think about that question, you would automatically think of all the big figures that there are in Black culture and history that you can name. But I'm gonna stick to what I know, which is my family, my mom and dad were actually married. So I was raised in a home where me and my sister and my mom and dad, and we had a family. Most African Americans are not raised that way. It's always one parent, not the other. If the parents are together, they're typically not married. So I commend my mom and dad for doing what was right by keeping our family together and raising us that way. It instilled a lot of family values. It just makes your worth ethic different, I would say, and how you love different when you have that example in your home. When your home is kind of broken, it's harder for you to kind of get out here in the world and figure it out. I think a lot of reasons why I'm so comfortable with myself is because of how I was raised. For example, my sister, she's a single mother. She has 2 kids, and she didn't let that get in her way. She went to work every day. She made sure she took care of her family. I remember when she was graduating from high school, she was going to school at night, working in the day to make sure she took care of her kids. And I commended her for that because her child's father was nowhere around. Those are the big inspirations for me. My best friend, she had 3 kids. I seen her before she got married, and she would go to work every day, no help from the baby's fathers. And she made sure she was that example for her kids to make sure they seen her getting up and doing something with her life to become somebody. So I take a look at all of that around me more so than I idolize people, because it starts with home, basically.
Sure does. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
What is your perception of racism in the United States?
My perception of racism would be it's still existing. I really wouldn't think it would be with me growing up, and I went to a predominantly white high school, hung out with predominantly white friends. I was always told by the black people that I was too proper, so I kind of didn't really fit in, and I fit in more so with them. I was in marching band, I went to band camp, I got all kind of stories about that. But I think it's definitely still existing. We have came a long way, but we have a long way to go. And what made me realize that, I probably would say within this last year when I went to deal with a customer, and I noticed that over the phone, we were great. We had jokes, we got along great and everything like that. But when she actually see me in person, I seen how that changed. But what do? You don't fight every battle, and you can't help it if somebody doesn't have enough sense to know that that has nothing to do with anything. You still have to make your stuff work. I still had to make this project work. I still had to make my customer happy. So you kind of learn how you deal with things, or how you put other people in front of people just to make it by it. Because let everything fail because of what this person did and fight this person every day? I can't fight their ignorance, so I just chose to move on. But I think that it'll get better eventually with the newer generations and the millennials and everybody coming about, because they don't see color. But however, until the older people or the people that set in their way kind of change those behaviors and have those uncomfortable conversations, we won't see much change.
Do you have any book shows that you would recommend to learn about Black history in the United States?
I am a TV buff, movies and TV shows. I do mostly Judas, what's the name of that? Judas and the Black Messiah is a movie that I actually seen, and it has something to do with a gentleman who was in Black Panther, and how he just went out in the neighborhoods and talked to people. And that's all he did, was talk about things, talk about issues. And it was really good to see how somebody just with so much to say, and how that person just, those words affected like people. It scared some. And the ending was really sad. I'm not going to give it up, the ending of it, but that's really something that gets you aware of things. There's a show on Netflix, Dear White People. It's about kids who are going to school and how they deal with culture bias and how they deal with the things that occur and racism and things like that. And it kind of gives you some different perspectives, not always being that African Americans are right, because sometimes we're misguided and are the way we thinking as well. And I think that show was big to show how it could be seen or perceived with dealing with African Americans, but it helps. I also would say, like a show series Pose, it talks about ballroom dancing and our culture of LGBT community and how people do ballroom dancing and as they go through their transitions or what have you. But it's how people came together to support one another, who was basically could be African American, could be minority, but because of what they believe, they may be non-binary, they may be transitioning, but it just lets you in their world a little bit to let you know the stuff that they deal with. So it's even outside of just color. It could be having other things to do with it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then for my last question, what are some Black-owned businesses that you support here locally?
Locally, I would have to say I'm a big buff on local music. So basically rappers and stuff like that, sometimes they come together and put clothing together and things like that. There is Weirdo Gang Apparel, and it's by Flipperachi. He's a local rapper, and what he does is he comes up with clothing, sweatshirts, things like that. You might want to put your logo on there, or he might have his logo on there. It might be something that says weird or something like that. I do order from him, and I suggest anybody who can locally to do so as well. I'm gonna also suggest like the Oil Palace. I don't know if anybody been out there out west on 38th Street, where they have the oils you can burn in your home, and they have butters and stuff for your skin and soaps and things like that. So I would suggest that as well. And that's just a couple local Black-owned businesses I suggest.
Flipperachi.
Flipperachi is his
That's
name.
a really great name.
You can find him on Facebook.
Okay.
And he has music out there too. And he's just now to the point where he doesn't have to go to work every day. He got his business and he's doing so well where he can actually focus on that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Check him out.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jamie. We really appreciate your time, your leadership, and being part of the MSIL family.
Oh, I appreciate it. I just appreciate you guys taking the time just to pick my brain a little bit. I feel valid, like I feel good that you want to know more about me and my role I play here. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Stacey.